Vineet Nayyar, the Executive Vice Chairman at the company, now joins in. Good afternoon, Mr. Nayyar, and thanks so much for joining in. You know, the recent signs that we're picking up from the investor community is that Q4 could be a softish quarter for Tech Mahindra. In fact, you know, your organic constant currency growth could be flat, maybe slightly negative. Margins could be severely under pressure. Could you give us a sense how the Jan to March quarter has been for, Tech Mahindra in terms of, dollar revenue, constant currency revenue, or perhaps even margins?
Rima, I'm afraid you will have to wait till the results come out for me to tell you all this. I mean, I can talk about overall contours, both on the enterprise side and on the telecom side, but quarterly results, as you know, have a certain sanctity and which we can't talk about.
Okay, so let me come then to the telecom space. That's a vertical which is important for you, and it's done very well. On a trailing 12-month basis, telecom's growth was a whopping 24%. But in the last 2 quarters at least, the company has not closed any large deal in the telecom vertical. Would that then slow down your growth from the telecom space in FY16? And then could it perhaps be in, high single digits, the growth in telecom?
Look, the nature of the business does not go as one smooth line or a curve. There are movements which are significant, and then they become flattish, and then they go up again. That is the nature of all business. In fact, that is what life is all about. So is the step movement. We have taken some significant steps, and after steps we take breath and we start seeing how to optimize the steps we have taken. For example, we secured one of perhaps the biggest independent company in networking. We think it has incredible potential. Will the results come overnight? No. Will the results be equivalent to our expectation? Possibly yes. Will it immediately start spewing money for the benefit of the company? No. Certain investments will have to be made. So all I would say is look at business as it actually is. Namely, you secure something, you work at it, and you make it work. In fact, if I was to say, that has been the differentiator of Tech Mahindra in relation to all other companies. We buy assets which are undervalued and perhaps which are not as well managed. And then we fine-tune them and make them work. We have done that consistently to the benefit of the company, to the benefit of the shareholders, and that is an objective we will continue with. Rima, we don't look at life on a quarterly basis. So I would request you to also share our vision with you, to share our values with you, and look at Tech Mahindra in the same fashion.
All right, point taken, sir. It's just unfortunately, it's an occupational hazard that we look at the company on an everyday basis, as well as, assess the companies every quarter when they come out. So it's an occupational hazard at our end, but point taken. We'll also consider your, point of view about looking at Tech Mahindra over the longer term.
Hi, Mr. Nayyar. Good afternoon, sir. Okay, since you don't want to talk about on a quarter-on-quarter basis, give us a sense of how the demand scenario is shaping up. What kind of deals are you seeing in the market? Maybe not just for Tech Mahindra, but, from your peers as well. What's the industry demand scenario looking like?
Well, I mean, you are seeing, as in many ways, a global turmoil occurring at this point of time. Euro has come down dramatically. US is emerging once again as a very powerful economy, and in dollar terms, the value of the dollar has gone up considerably. It has an incidental impact on Indian IT industry because we are used to measuring our revenues in terms of dollars. But in terms of constant currency, we are seeing some amount of growth happening. And that is the thing we should be looking at really, because the currencies are becoming very, very volatile. US, I think, will continue to drive growth. Europe is going to be a laggard, and the decrease in its value of its currency in the short term is going to cause problems, but in the long term it may be good for them because it will allow greater trade to occur. And if it does, it could give a jump start to their somewhat stagnating economies.
Okay.
Middle East, you will see problems because oil price, as you know, has fallen dramatically. So net, an uncertain world, and we are fortunate to be working in that, and we will work to the best of our capabilities to see how we can fine-tune our strategy to meet myriads of changes which are occurring almost on a continuous basis.
Okay. So given the fact, sir, that we are living in an uncertain world, as you pointed out, and the strong deal pipeline in telecom is not converted into, deals which, clouds the near-term visibility, what's the outlook for the company in constant currency terms on an organic basis? Say perhaps in FY16, would growth be, in the NASSCOM's guided range, or do you think you could perhaps fall short? Or, because the run rate of the company has been so good, you're likely to exceed the NASSCOM's guidance.
I'm cautiously optimistic. We have made some very good investments, and I do believe that we will get a very, very decent return in the medium term, definitely in the long term. Short term would require a bit of adjustments, bit of fine-tuning, bit of improvement, and bit of eking out more efficiency from the same apparatus. But in time, if you were to look at TechM for over a year or 2 years, I would say the prospects are very good. Whether it will be next quarter or 2 quarters later, I will not talk about it.
But in the near term, it could be a bit cloudy, the outlook.
If I had the prescience to see what the future was, I would share it with you, but I don't. I'm an ordinary human being.
Okay. Sir, in the January con call that you had, you'd indicated that you could be looking at wage hikes which could impact your margins by about 200 basis points. Recently, we've seen Infosys announce the wage hikes. Could you give us a sense of what the average wage hikes for your company could look like?
Our wage hikes have already occurred.
Oh.
And yes, we always, our occurs on the 1st of January. That is done with, over. You will see its impact on the last quarter, because a quarter in which a wage hike occurs always has an impact on it. But like every other IT company over the year, it will even out.
Okay. Fair enough. So what's the outlook on the margins in the near term, or, perhaps at least in the medium term? The company has made a lot of acquisitions. There was SoftGen, there was LCC, and yes, they're, likely to pay off in the medium term. But in the near term, they could hurt your margins, because the margins currently, at least, are operating, are at lower margins compared to what TechM, currently enjoys. What's your sense about, the margin range for Tech Mahindra, at least in the next 1 or 2 years?
Well, I don't look at business only in terms of margins. I look at it in terms of growth potential. I look at it in terms of strategy. I look at it in terms of what is the value I can create on that particular business or that particular acquisition. When I look at LCC, we look at a company which is doing 7 to 8% margin. No different from, in fact, somewhat better than when we acquired Satyam. A year or 2 years of hard work and sweat, and we took the margins up to 20%. Similarly, LCC has taken us into a wonderful new world in telecom, that is of networks. And that is where most of the investment is going to come up in the next 5 years. So we think we are strategically positioned that we will work with this opportunity, and in the long term, the shareholder will benefit. Will the benefit happen 6 months from now or a year from now? I cannot and I will not say. But I can tell you this, that I am very, very positive about this acquisition and of SoftGen, both of which bring to us certain strategic capabilities which we did not have.
Okay. Fair enough. And one final question, sir. We always ask you about, Tech Mahindra's acquisition strategy. You always tell us that the company is open to it. You keep considering as and when an attractive opportunity comes. Is there something which is on the pipeline perhaps in the next 3 to 6 months?
If you eat too much too fast, you can get indigestion.
Okay.
And we have acquired a few significant companies. Now our focus is going to be to make them work for us.
So there was
that is what we are focusing at the moment.
Okay, so then there are some reports
Yes.
about, your company being one of them interested in something called like a Sierra Cedar. So should we understand that Tech Mahindra would not be interested in any acquisition right now?
Did I say that? I only told you where my focus is going to be.
Okay.
And if any strategic acquisition is on the radar, and if it comes to us, we look at it.
Okay.
But my priority in the next 12 months is going to make the acquisitions we have done, make them work for us.
All right, sir, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for joining in.